Hi, Crystal here. Welcome to another video with Intact Immersive HQ. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can use a 2D image and make it into a more dynamic 3D render in TouchDesigner. I often say TouchDesigner isn't the best software when it comes to making realistic 3D models, but there are some tricks to make it look nicer. And this is going to be a fun little easy tutorial, and it could be applied on different things. For example, here an example of using an image of a quarter and making it 3D that looks more like actual metal and having texture. We're not going to mess with any like UV mapping, so it will be flat, but it can be quite cool to get some extra oomph in your network. So let's begin. So this image was generated in Midjourney AI. So this is stained glass of colorful gardens. I did a few different versions. There's this, I did this. But I just found that this technique looks quite nice when you're trying to do stained glass. So if you want to have a similar result, you can do like stained glass of blah, blah, blah. But also metal things work well too. So, but for this is the image I used. I put it in Photoshop and I first just kind of cropped out the space that I want. That is one. We're going to create 3 images out of this. One, we want one to just be a blank filled. So this will be the image that we use to create the shape that we want in 3D. And stops. And the second is we want a normal map. And the third, we want a height map. So let's start with a normal map and height map. So how do we make a normal map and height map in Photoshop? It's very easy. So here in the filter up here, we can filter. We might see that they're all blanked out. Make sure you can just click on the layer. And then you get to see it. I'm just going to go 3D. And go to generate normal map. You will get this window, and then we just need to go to file or edit preferences, go to performance, and in the performance window, just have this use graphic processor checked on. So, okay. And now we go to window, filter, 3D. Let's go back to normal map and we will get this normal map box open. Okay. Yeah. I want to see this as a cube. And then we can see what's kind of generate out of this image. You can increase the detail scale depending on your design. Maybe you want to invert the height, but I don't. And then I'm going to press OK. Now I have this normal map and I'm going to save this. I'm going to save it as a PNG, and already I saved this here. I did like 2 versions. One is like inverted and one's not inverted. And it's good to save it and call it, like here I called stained glass normal, so we know what it is. And I'm going to just exit since I already saved it. And then we're going to make a height map. So I'm going to Control Z so I can go back to this image over here. And then I'm going to do the same thing, but other than selecting neural map, I'm going to choose bump height map. And jump height map, I want to just kind of view it as a cube. Cool. And over here, also option to choose invert it. And I want to increase this detail scale. And okay, cool. And this will be my height map. I'm going to save that to save as a PNG. I have it here. This is like the inverted, not inverted version. And finally, I want one that is just a full matte of a color that's overlaid on. So what I will do for that is in the layer file, I'm going to click on it. In this window, the layer styles should come up. And I'm going to go to color overlay, and you can just choose a color. This is just brown. That is fine with me. And I'll also save this. Over here, I have this stained glass texture one. So what I want is a normal map, a height map, a color overlay one, and the one with the image. So there's, I guess we want 4 images to make this happen. Awesome. Next thing I want is to have an HDRI map. So HDRI stands for a high dynamic range image. And so these are images that are taken like on site that will just be like in the background to create environmental lights. So you can, I'll send this link if you don't have in the caption, if you don't have any HDRI files. So these are free where you can download some HDRs, and they're usually either like a JPEG or EXR file. I just downloaded a few 2K ones over here, so nothing too crazy. And then we're going to use that. That will be a very important part of making it look dynamic once we get into TouchDesigner. Once in TouchDesigner, as always, we will start with a clean network. And I'm going to just start dropping off everything that all the assets I prepared for. So over here, we got the stained glass image one, got a normal map. Actually, I'm going to show both the inverted and non-inverted one just so we can compare. And also we have the bump height map, and also just a color filled one over here. So we have all of these ready. And let's start with this color image fill one. I don't really know what to call it. And over here, I'm going to add a null just in case if there's anything you want to add into this. I'm going to just call this shape stained glass shape. And after this, I'm going to add a trace. Ooh, trace. And now look, it's 3D, but it's flat. Depending, sometimes, not for this, but sometimes I'll add a extrude. So then it will become more of a 3D object. But why we're not going to use extrude for this, because since when we're going to texture this, we're going to have it just, these are just flat. So we're going to just have it on top. But if we make it extrude, we won't have the textures for the side, so it wouldn't work, because then you'll need a UV map for it, which gives an extra layer of complexity that we're not going to just do today. So we're going to just keep it flat, but we're going to add a attribute create, and we're going to add turn on compute tangents on. And this is pretty important. Like oftentimes, if maybe you're adding textures in SOPs to a geometry in TouchDesigner, and you notice, hey, why is everything dark? Why can't I see anything? Add in an attribute create, turn on the compute tangent, maybe also turn on the normals, and see if it fixes it. Then I'll add a null over here. And after this null, I'll add a geometry comp. Great. We have this, our first line. And then I want to make sure whenever you want to render to have a camera, a light. And for this, we're also going to have an environment light and a render top. Cool. This render top, I'm going to add a null after this. I'm going to call this out. And I'm going to make this viewer active. This render, I will make this to be 1280 by 1280 because I want it to be a square. And for now, I'm actually just gonna also make this a little bit bigger, make this translate to be 3. So cool. Right now we have just a white block. Let's add a PBR material. This, I'm gonna add, all of them, I'm gonna add a null after this in case there's anything I want to add onto it. So I'm gonna call this the, I'm gonna put SG for stained glass, and then color, I'll add a null, I go SG normal, and this would be good because then when I want to switch off to show you the other normal, I can just like relink this null rather than re-referencing it onto the PBR. And last one, this will be the height. And we'll add some roughness later too. Great, so we have color, normal, and height. And I'm gonna just drag this onto PBR, call this gonna be the base color. This will be the normal, which is the bump. And once I click on this, and I will go to the maps, and this enable height map, I'm gonna turn it on. I'm gonna drag this SG height over here. And you notice this looks really dark. I'm gonna drag this on geometry, and and it's all black. What's going on? It's because we don't have any environment lights right now. And I said that earlier we download HDR image, and this is where we're going to use the HDR image. So I'm going to add a HDR. This one has this day sky one. Cool, and I'm going to just drag this onto the environment map. And you start seeing some stuff. Okay, it's pretty dark. Let's make this a little bit brighter. We're gonna mess with this PBR material. And also, I recommend that if you have like a library HDR maps, that you can make them into tools in your components, then you can always have them. See over here, I have a folder of HDR eyes. So you can go down to my components, add a folder, call it HDRs. And since they also always need a comp, and this is an HDR, it's just a top. So if I just put in like, drop this here, this is just an environment map that is linked to links to the map. So then I can just like copy and paste this in here. Ooh, I like this one better. So that's like a way that you can like save your lighting environment maps without having to go to your folder and find it all the time. Also, another thing to note about environment maps and PBRs, it is quite heavy. So like if you have a bunch of these, you might notice your FPS going down, or also if it might crash. So if you don't have a strong GPU computer, just something to keep in mind. And also it's good to save while you're working with SOPs, and especially if you're doing PBRs and using environment maps. So just use environment maps sparingly. That being said, let's go to the PBR. Let's go into mess with some of these parameters. So I kind of just, look, this roughness does a lot. And also this image itself, it's quite squish in my opinion. So I also, in this geometry, just for this image, I also pulled it up. So it just looks nicer to me. And on this map, for this height map, this is the bump scale. This is another thing to play with. And let's compare this with, this is the normal map that is inverted. This is the one that's not inverted, how Does it look different? Ooh, I like it inverted more. Yeah. And then this is also the inverted height map, and this was the non-inverted height map. Kind of just depends, your own preference. I want to also add some roughness to this. So a trick is to use a noise top and have this to be random. I'm going to just increase the size by to make it to be 1000 by 1000, and I'll add a level after this and a null. Call this SG rough. I'm going to drag this onto PBR and make this be the roughness. And then also in this, I can change the roughness here, but also in the PBR. I'm gonna get to a place where I'm content. Ooh, yeah. Yeah, bump scale down. And why I also have this to have a null, because maybe in this stained glass color before here, I can also add a level here and play with look through here. And a way to also make it more like you can see how it's 3D is if we rotate a little bit, just a little bit, just a tiny bit, maybe have it scale up. And let's have a little background over here. So we pretty much have like the foundation of it, and then let's add a background. What I did was I used a ramp, and I'm gonna change this resolution to be 1280 by 1280 and have this to be circular. Increase this period, and let's play with this being like a light blue to be a dark blue. And I'll add a composite and have this to be over this here. That is intense. Let's make this blue a little bit less saturated. And it also helps if this has like a glow on it. So we will do that by adding a blur. For this blur, I'm going to insert a threshold. So it's pretty much just like a white border, and increase this blur. And I'm going to just sandwich this in the middle. It is quite bright. Let me add a level top just so I can lower the opacity a bit. Cool. And that's pretty much it. This is how you can just make like a 2D image and make it look more dynamic in 3D. And it's cool having all these like little textures in there. This is like showing you this is the image we started from. And it's also cool if you just had this like close up to just get the detail too. And what happens if you have the actual texture animate? That's cool. That's pretty. There's you can really play around with this, and I'm really excited to see you guys can share what you do with this. This is actually, I like this even more. Having it like different stained colors with the noise. I hope you enjoyed this. I'm excited to see what you guys make with this. And if you enjoyed it, let me know in the comments below. And remember to tag the HQ and myself if you make something with this technique. I'll leave my handle in the caption below, also with the HDRI website link. But there's also a bunch of different places you can find free HDRs. It's just the one that I got mine from. So till next time, bye.
Hey folks, thanks for watching. If you like our YouTube content, I highly recommend you check out the Interactive and Immersive HQ Pro. The HQ Pro is the only comprehensive educational resource and community for immersive design, TouchDesigner, and creative tech pros. In the HQ Pro trainings, we cover almost any topic you can think of, and we go way more in depth than we do in our YouTube tutorials. We have a private group where Matthew Reagan, myself, and our other industry veteran and pioneer teachers answer your questions every single day. If that sounds cool, click the link in the description to learn more. And if you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe for more free TouchDesigner and immersive content.